Hello, everyone. We are speaking for the frustrated Indian and Think for India. And we have with us a very special guest. It's a senior correspondent from the National Telegraph for Canada. And Mr. Daniel Bordman is with us today. Hello, Daniel.
Thanks for
Uh,
having me.
Thank you so much for being here. So, we would like to know there are quite a few things that are troubling the Indian diaspora, especially with regards to Canada. So Daniel is very well versed with the Indian diaspora there. So first, we'll like to know what's going on with Trudeau and his politics at the moment.
So yeah, Trudeau's currently in a bit of a quagmire, which has described the last 10 years of Canadian
Okay.
politics in general. But for Trudeau levels, this is pretty bad. He has survived multiple scandals that would have made anyone else in Canadian history resign in shame and disgrace, and maybe even criminal prosecution. The criminality of a lot of the stuff is quite brazen. And we thought the Canadian Parliament was kind of spend the last year in sort of disarray. We're a dysfunctional pseudo coalition between the Liberals and NDP. This is Justin Trudeau and Jagmeet Singh, with the potential for the French to sort of jump in. We have the French Separatist Party. There's a lot of irony in the Canadian politics vis-a-vis Canada, khalistan, if you dig into it. But the big thing was there's the Green Energy Fund, 600 to about $1 billion. The Liberals have created a slush fund of like fake green energy stuff that they were just giving money to themselves. They just took $1 billion, basically, said we're saving the
Right.
planet, and we're just giving themselves money.
Yeah.
This isn't getting any coverage in Canadian media. But the Conservatives are demanding the papers in Parliament. So this was the reason why Justin Trudeau was going to like prorogue Parliament and just run away, and nothing was going to get done over last year because there was another scandal to come out. So if they just don't ever hand in the papers of the scandal, then the Canadian media doesn't really have to cover the scandal. If it's a Liberal, like again, they'll do whatever they can. The Canadian media is an extension of the federal Liberal Party. Ironically, they're the ones who are screaming about Modi media and Godi media and all that, but they're a full-on extension of the Liberal Party, which is important to know in Canadian politics because that's how Liberals survive scandals. And literally, Stephen Harper, who you might remember, there was a major scandal which got more coverage and vitriol in the Canadian media than any of the Trudeau scandals. It was a $16 orange juice. One of the ministers in the Conservative Party on a trip somewhere got an orange juice to the hotel and ended up costing $16. This was a major scandal for the Canadian media. But $1 billion in green energy stolen and just not even used for green energy, but used to just pray Liberals, that's nothing. So now Justin Trudeau's in a major quagmire. Why? Well, because usually he likes people rise up in the Liberal Party and he throws them under the bus. This became Chrystia Freeland's turn. So Chrystia Freeland is a construction of Katie Telford, Gerald Butts, and the Canadian media. These are Trudeau's sort of inner circle handlers. And Chrystia Freeland was sort of made to be this super genius, hyper competent feminist woman. She's a pretty average woman. She has a journalist background. Her IQ is probably from 100 to 110 or something like that. Smarter than the average person, but by no means is this woman the dynamo that she's been made out to be. But she was constructed by the media and Trudeau and her inner circle of like, wow, Chrystia Freeland's on it. She failed at everything she ever did. Despicable woman, froze people's bank accounts, no concept of Canada, cackling while ruining people's lives. A real piece of work, that one. But a super genius feminist, blah, blah, blah. Now, to be fair to her, she is smarter than Melanie Joly, the other ding-dong that Trudeau promoted. Right. Melanie Joly is now a foreign minister that you have to deal with. Her start in Canadian politics, she was made a minister of heritage right away because it's 2015 was the answer. Why is she a minister? She's no one. Well, because it's 2015 and she's an attractive woman, so she's now minister of something. She then built an $8 million skating rink. Canadians love hockey, ice hockey. She spent $8 million building an ice rink in front of Parliament one winter that no one was allowed to skate on. And then this propelled her to the foreign ministry. So this is the state of the Canadian inner circle. And these are, if you're India is going, what's Canadian doing? Are they stupid? Yes. These are the people you're dealing with. They are stupid. They're very incompetent buffoons who have been portrayed as media like savants, like, oh, these genius women, they're going to solve the feminism. They throw words like, we have a she session, not a recession. Canada would say things like, we have a
Right.
she session. And now we have broligarchs are the bad guys. There's tech bros. So they're now the
Right.
broligarchs are causing a she session. This is Canada. This is Canadian discourse. Okay. So when we do silly things and India's going, why are they so silly? It's because we're a fundamentally unserious country right now. So all this to say, Chrystia Freeland's been like, the mommy of the Liberal Party. Justice been daddy. Mommy and daddy are now fighting. So the Liberals can ignore almost the media, which is Liberals. I confuse them. The CBC, Global News, CTV, they can ignore almost any scandal they want if it's Liberal. $1 billion in green energy, their biggest thing missing. Who cares? One of Trudeau's cabinet ministers had funded his own corrupt thing and said, "Oh, there's two different Randys. The company that I gave money to is run by a different Randy. No, that's you." But then this guy also claimed to be an Indigenous Canadian. He wasn't an Indigenous Canadian. He just claimed to be Indigenous. He gave himself a fake Indigenous name. He said, "Oh yeah, my name's Randy, but the Oceanabe or whatever call me Strong Eagle Man." That wasn't even true. So a man funded his own company claiming to call himself Strong Eagle Man. This guy's a friggin' cabinet minister. And again, the media was just kind of, it took us an alternative to shove this in front of everyone's face. It got so crazy that they had to cover it. Now, what they cannot ignore is mommy and daddy fighting. It was Chrystia Freeland, super feminist genius, her turn to be thrown under the bus. The fall economic statement, which they were delaying, the last day they legally had to put it out, it was worst case scenario was a $40 billion deficit they ran. It ended up being $62 billion. Justin Trudeau over Zoom asked Chrystia Freeland to deliver the fall economic statement, and then he was going to fire her. So be the face of this disaster, then I'll fire you and bring in someone new. And Chrystia Freeland said, okay, I know how this works, right? We all just get thrown on the bus. So she dragged Trudeau under the bus with her. So she was fired from her job as finance minister, but then she resigned from cabinet in general, didn't switch to another position, caused this whole thing, and then came out against Trudeau. So with Chrystia Freeland pulling the "you can't fire me, I quit," this had to be covered in Canadian media because they could not ignore Chrystia Freeland because they made Chrystia Freeland. So now that Justin Trudeau and Chrystia Freeland are fighting, then this caused a big riff in the thing. And there's a lot of Liberals. I mean, since the Freedom Convoy, there's been discontent Liberals. We've known about 30 Liberals wanted Trudeau gone for a while. Now they're coming out publicly and actually saying publicly, multiple ones are calling for him to resign. There's sort of a division in caucus between Chrystia Freeland's faction and Katie Telford's faction. And it makes a lot of sense. Chrystia Freeland kind of speaks for the MPs and Katie Telford speaks for the Prime Minister's office. So the biggest scandals in Trudeau's history, and what I've been saying is the country's being run strong-armed by the Prime Minister's office. I've been saying, Katie Telford's the real Prime Minister of this country. But in Canada, the leader of the party has a lot of power over the party. The Canadian Prime Minister really has more power than an American president. Now, America is a stronger country, so globally, yes, the American president has more power, but comparatively as a leader of a country, you would have to understand the checks and balances don't really that much apply. So, and especially since Trudeau's last 10 years, he's done everything he could to remove the check. That's the essence of the Lavalin scandal. Is no checks and balance in the Prime Minister's office, corruption, just wheeling and dealing, running a country like a tin pot dictatorship. You now have this sort of factions where it's that Katie Telford is holding the sort of sycophantic faction of say whatever we want to just get money and whatever, move up the Trudeau ladder, maybe I'll get into cabinet. And then Chrystia Freeland seems to be the leader of the rebel faction here. This would break any other Canadian Prime Minister instantly. Would say, okay, it's their job. You're in a minority. Leadership's become untenable. This happens all the time when you're in a minority government. This is when you call an election, especially because we got 25% tariffs and a potential crisis with America with Trump coming in, saying he's going to slap tariffs on us. Half the Liberal Party has called for him to resign. All three of the other parties said they're going to vote no confidence on him as soon as Parliament resumes at the end of January, and he's still remaining on as Prime Minister. This man is amazing. There is nothing. There is no shame in Justin Trudeau.
How long do you think he can do this? How long do you think he can carry on like this?
Until January 29th, at least, because he prorogued Parliament. He's like, oh, we're off the holidays. He's like, yeah, it's Christmas season, so we can't have a Prime Minister, of course.
Yeah.
So he's basically gone on holiday and prorogued Parliament, just shut it down for like as long as he possibly can. Parliament is going to sit next on January 29th. If one party on January 29th brings a confidence motion, and this time the NDP doesn't vote with it, then he's done. Now, it's more likely because any election will take 36 days at least to do. So if you start at January 29th and the NDP vote no confidence on January 29th, they pass the February 25th or 24th mark on the 36 days where they all qualify for their pensions. So this whole thing where Jagmeet
But
was,
Jagmeet Singh has already indicated that he will vote against, and he will bring down this government. So do you expect that to happen, or is it just he's just threatening it? He's not really going to do
yeah,
anything.
so he's kind of said if Justin Trudeau's still around, if the Liberals have a new leader, like he might bargain for time. So like if Chrystia Freeland somehow becomes the power in the Liberal Party, and she wants to maintain power until October, and she promises Jagmeet that like, yeah, I'll launch missiles into New Delhi. He'll be like, okay, yeah, I'll support this. Like, okay, sure. Then then the government will be stable until October. We'll have Krista Freeland being, Mr. Speaker, I think America, and we'll get 35% tariffs because Trump hates her and I hate her.
Yeah.
And she's the one who, I mean, she's such a bad foreign minister. Like when she was negotiating with the Americans, she would like speak at conferences and like in the middle of American negotiations, just go on these anti-Trump rants at like these women in power conferences while negotiating the new NAFTA deal. And then we'd all have to start from square one because Chrystia Freeland couldn't keep her stupid mouth shut and just not insult.
Trump really has a bad opinion. Trump has a bad opinion about her already, and he's gonna be getting his inauguration done by 20th. So what happens after that?
What happens if that? Again, this is where any other Canadian prime minister, any other leadership would have realized country first. With Trump coming in, Canada needs a leadership with a mandate. We would call an election. And if Trump came in on January 20th and we say, hey, we got 3 weeks left on our election, Donald, we're just going to try not to stay out of this one, let the results of the election play out. We'll have it. And then we have an actual leader that has the confidence, a mandate from Canadians. So then how do they want to deal with the Trump and the global situation? That's what would happen to any other prime minister, John Chrétien, Paul Martin, Stephen Harper, Wilfrid Laurier, like all the Canadian prime, none of them would stay on as prime minister right now. None of them would be doing this. This is deeply narcissistic, anti-national, you'll say, behavior. This is totally ego before party, party before country, ego before country, Justin before anything. It's bad, but he seems not capable of shame. And Jagmeet Singh, again, he's a bit nebulous. Like he's now like, oh, I will do it and we'll reevaluate later. But Jagmeet Singh's a chronic liar. And, I'm ripping up the supply conference agreement. Like, no, there was nothing to rip up to begin with. And it was all political.
He's done these antics quite a few times already before, and nothing's really come of it.
Yeah. So Jagmeet Singh can't really be trusted. He'll do what's in the interest of Jagmeet Singh. Again, if Chrystia Freeland becomes the leader and she's like, I want to focus on Canada and America and blah, 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 then he might call an election to not tie himself to a dying liberal brand. But if she's like, oh, I won the election and I want to build nuclear weapons so I can launch them at Modi's house, then he'd be like, okay, yeah, we don't need food, we don't need water, we don't need farms, we don't need whatever, we just need nuclear scientists, and we're gonna go full Hezbollah and just that's what we're doing. So that's really where Jagmeet is, because again he's managed to play himself into his pension, so he's got that, and then he'll be like a fake lawyer, Khalistani activist for the rest of his life, and he'll make money doing that. And hopefully that is the end of the ballad of Jagmeet Singh and Justin Trudeau. But this is Canada; it's a fundamentally unserious place, and Prime Minister Trudeau runs the thing. You can never really be sure of anything. So, at the very least, 2025 will be the last year Justin Trudeau is Prime Minister of anything. If it is October and we have to wait till then, so be it. Canada might be under 25,000% tariffs by that point. But it could be spring. This is the most optimistic I've ever been that a spring election is possible, that we'll get a little bit of an early election, because there's no way Trudeau can survive this, because it's actually in the media. And there's two.
How do you think the Conservatives are going to do in the coming elections? Do is it expected that Pierre Poilievre might be the next prime minister?
in a supermajority. The projections are
Supermajority,
insane.
right?
Just Pierre Poilievre will probably win like the biggest supermajority in Canadian history. The official opposition, so the second place party, Her Majesty's Royal Opposition, will likely end up being the separatist Bloc Québécois, who
Wow.
that's
Okay.
that's an irony in itself. So
There's
they
a
only
big
run in
fall for
Quebec.
the Liberal Party.
Yeah, like this is
Big
how
fall,
badly the
big fall.
Liberals and NDP coalition has ruled the country and how little they're thought of in the country. Number one will be a
Yeah.
Poilievre. Number two won't even be one of those two parties. Number two will be a party that only speaks French, and only runs in Quebec. They will be the number
Right.
two party in the entire federal country, right? Just
Right.
because they're just running
Right.
candidates in Quebec. They'll be number two as projected, and then Liberals and NDP will be third and fourth, or fourth and third,
Right.
like respectively. Like the Liberals might end up being in fourth place with like under 10 seats federally. That's an insane number. So again, this is why the Liberals haven't called an election, because these have been the projections the last few years, is conservative supermajority. So the reason why the Liberals have never tried their luck in an election is because they're 20 points behind in the polls, that even if they combine with the NDP, they're still not going to win. So you're looking at a conservative supermajority in Parliament, and the traditional leftist parties that are ruling the country right now, not even being part of the political calculus at all, not even the official opposition. They will be forced to sort of sit in the corner, and it's going to be a very interesting parliament if that shapes out. If the Conservatives have a supermajority and the official opposition is in the hands of the French, that's basically going unopposed, because the French refuse to speak English in a spitefulness, and when you don't speak English, what you say doesn't matter to the English-speaking part of the country. This is like, American politics. This is something like a lot of you tell to Hindu, but to the Indian, all diaspora communities eventually have to learn this in their activism. If you speak Punjabi or Hindi when you're doing activism in Canada, or like making a video or trying to do anything, doesn't matter. None of it matters. The only thing that matters in our politics is things said in English, and then in Quebec in French. But in general, that. So if you have an official opposition that just doesn't speak English, and refuses to, you basically have.
You're also from a Jewish background, and I've seen many of your posts, many of your videos that you have gone to the Hindu temples and interacted with the Indian diaspora, the Hindu community as well. What is the ground situation at the moment? Is it as tense as it was a few months back? Has it improved?
I mean, the temples are still. I mean, I would not say it's improved, because the Khalistanis have sort of said, like, okay, the temples are fair game. So I think there's an understanding in the diaspora now, especially in Canada, that the temples are fair game for the Khalistanis. There's no real will for the police to get in and do any of this. Like, the police have been so beaten down by wokeness, and they know people on the Peel Region police boards and these different police boards. There are many Muslim Brotherhood members and Khalistani members who have infiltrated the system. So it's just like the police kind of thrown their hands up and been like, you saw in the subway in New York, where the police officer just walking by the woman on fire. That's police in the West. That would describe Canadian police too, just walking by people on fire, and some criminal.
In fact, at the recent temple attacks, we saw them arresting the Hindus instead. They were pretty aggressive then.
Yeah, if they that's kind of how the police work. So if the Khalistanis or the Muslim Brotherhood, or if an extremist does something at like a Hindu temple or a Jewish thing, right? It works this way. So if you have like a Hamas person, like I've seen this at like the Best Shepherd, like come in a Hamas flag with a sign that says "Kill, Rape, Murder is good," and then starts threatening and then breaks the law, and like they have to go so over the top, break several hundred laws, just to be like, and all the pressure has to be put on the cops. Just take this one Hamas member away, or in your case, like a Khalistani. But as soon as they do that to the one Hamas member and the one Khalistani, they know they have to get a Jew or a Hindu as well. So then they come after a Jew or a Hindu with the most minor thing possible. So the media and their bosses can do the clashes thing, because they don't want to have, if they arrest one side, then it's a problem of extremism, right? Hamasniks are attacking Jews, and that's not a narrative that the city wants. They want clashes between Jews and Muslims, Israel-Palestine clashes. That's what they want to say in the media. So it's the same thing with the Khalistanis and attacking Hindu temples. When the Khalistanis attack and they beat people with sticks, and the cop arrests a Khalistani, they will then put their sights on the Hindus and look for a Hindu to just throw into a cop car, so they can. So the media can then go, violence and clashes, not
Yeah, yeah.
the story. And then
Action from both sides, so
yeah,
they're arrested, they calm down both sides, so
yes,
it's no one side gets targeted according to them, because even if they are the perpetrating community, because we've seen on the streets lots of Hamas flags all over the place, Hamas rallies, we've seen Khalistan rallies. It seems a free for all kinds of terror outfits just roaming around freely, people propagating for them, people flying their flags, and the police are just standing by and watching it happen.
that's an accurate assessment of what is going on in Canada every day. Yeah,
That's
that's what
pretty
it is. That's
dangerous.
exactly what it is.
Also, what about Pierre Poilievre? How do you see his politics? If he becomes the prime minister, will the situation improve with India? How do you see it?
I do. I think. I mean, listen, it can't get worse than Justin Trudeau. I mean, this is a man
Right.
whose actual policy was to grow the economy from the heart outwards. This is his 2015 plan. The famous quote was, "The budget will balance itself." Another
Yeah.
quote is
Yeah.
Justin Trudeau personally says he doesn't think about fiscal policy or monetary policy, either one. He's the prime minister of the country. He just doesn't think about the economy or how he does affects the economy. That's not for him to. That's for other people. That's for bankers to figure out or something. This is why I can say Katie Telford runs the country, because he literally doesn't run the country. He doesn't think about anything he does, and it's just people in the prime minister's office just ruling the country by fiat. And you have that. So economically, just Poilievre is better. Socially on the Discord thing, I think you'll see a turn. He's not. I don't think he'll be as hard as Donald Trump, but with a Trump presidency in the States, and the cultural shift happening there, I'm more optimistic that Poilievre will take some of the steps needed to curb the extremism on our streets. But Poilievre is not running on a rah deport the immigrants platform. He's running on a slash the taxes. Common
The cost of living
sense, build
crisis.
homes, stop crime. But there is an element of one of the elements of the platform is crime is out of control, and we need to stop this
Okay.
depolicing woke nonsense, and criminals should go to jail. So
Yeah.
he does want to put. I mean, most of the crime in Canada is being committed by a few hundred people who are just continuously let out on bail. So in Vancouver, it's 90% of the crimes are committed by 47 people. We just can't put these people in jail for some reason. They're just allowed to it's just catch release. They come, they go on a crime spree, they're then arrested, they're let out the next day, they then instantly start a crime spree, and then they're eventually arrested, and then they're let out the next day, and then they go in the morning. It's like their job. It's like their job in prison's like their apartment where they sleep. They go out and commit crime, then they're brought into prison that night, and then they go released in the day, and they do a day's worth of crimes, and they're brought. This is just how Canada works now. And it's these few thousand people across the country who are committing 90% of the crimes. But we're just letting them. We're just letting them because in our mind, they're all Aladdin, lovable street rats stealing a loaf of bread to feed their talking monkey friend or whatever. And that's why people commit crimes. It's not because there's any criminal impulses or global terrorist organizations and criminal outfits involved in the country now. No, it's because they're doing it to fight racism, and they need to steal a loaf of bread to feed their family because racism makes them poor, and this is how we be anti-racist, and racism causes crimes. So being anti-racist and letting people commit crimes are actually reducing crimes, because, and that's that. But that sounds ridiculous. But that's the Liberal Party. That's the Conservative Party of Ontario. We're run by an idiot, fat Trudeau, Doug Ford. He's not going to fight anything. A lot of the Conservative premiers in Canada are so scared and such feckless losers that they just go in with the woke nonsense too. They just say, okay, we'll leave the woke nonsense in from Liberals. We just don't do any extra, I guess. But Ontario is a joke too. Even
What
Alberta,
about the economic crisis? Because the economic crisis is the cost of living crisis. Is everybody has heard about it? The cost of living is really rising. Basic necessities, people are not able to afford them. So is it really as bad, the economic condition in Canada right now?
yeah. I mean, it's inflation's running amok. The average rental price is up 100% over the last decade. We have just been printing money and then losing track of the money we print. The amount of social welfare scams that are just running in this country are depleting our resources dry. Housing, again, like, this is the illegal immigration, like, a lot of kids coming in from the Punjab region being sold this fake dream in Canada. They go to these diploma mill schools, these fake schools, but then they need rent. And then, like, landlords are renting out their basements, and it's like 10 foreign students, sleeping in one room, paying $1,000 a month each. And, like, the landlords are making crazy money off of it. It's all unregulated. It's all illegal, all under the table. But, if a lot of the landlords are Khalistanis who've taken, or like, a lot of it is people taking advantage of their own communities because they can then do deals, like handshake deals, no paperwork. So instead of getting, if you're renting your basement out to a Canadian couple, you would get $1,700 a month, maybe, or 2,000, whatever, and then a single mom can live in your basement, and maybe that's a bit expensive, but whatever. Times are tough. But why would you rent your basement out to a single mom in Canada at $1,700? Why wouldn't you give it to 10 foreign exchange students, all for $1,000 each, and then you're making $10,000?
Yeah, that's makes economic sense. And another thing that we have been reading about is Trump calling Trudeau the governor of Canada, and calling Canada the 51st state of the United States. And he's been saying a lot of things about Greenland and Panama and all of that as well. But what's the impact of these statements? Are they just taken in jest, or is there something to it?
Most people take them in jest. Like, I like Trump. There's no way Canada's joining the United States and becoming the 51st country. I think he's just trolling. Because, again, Justin Trudeau and Christopher Freeland started this. It is America's our strongest ally. You don't take political sides in America. But for the last 8 years, Justin Trudeau and Christopher Freeland have made Trump bad, Trump evil. We are better than Trump, a central part of their foreign policy, and have snidely needled at the Americans. Not Biden, right, and Kamala. They just thought, Kamala would win, and we're out of the era of Trump. And they never really hedged their bets in case, the Republicans ever got back in power. Like, Trudeau never thought, like, what if the Republicans get back in power? This didn't cross his mind. So he broke the sort of
and it's Trump. It's Trump himself who's come back.
Trump himself.
It's not even another Republican candidate.
Yeah, exactly. So Trudeau sort of broke the unwritten rule, the compact of international relations, is like, don't get involved in and especially don't call, like, and then he called the American voters, like, misogynistic for failing to. It's like, dude. So now Trump's calling us the 51st state and joking about Anderson, Canada, and putting on tariffs and saying, if your economy can't survive, with 25% U.S. tariffs, why don't you just become a state in America? We'll take care of you. Right? So he's taunting Trudeau because Trudeau's been a dick to him over the last 8 years. And it's a lot of chickens coming home to roost. And any other prime minister would be forced to step aside by now, would, as his father did, take a walk in the snow and realize writing's on the wall. You had 10 years, you had a little run, you made it. Maybe he wants to get to 2025, so you could say I was prime minister from 2015 to 2025, so it has like 5 to 5, and like,
completed my term.
Complete.
He probably wants to complete his term, and wants to say that he didn't lose the elections. The new leadership lost the elections, so probably something like that.
Yeah, something like that. He would, again, that wouldn't put him beyond, like, Trudeau. He would, Trudeau probably thinks he can make it to October, and then kind of step aside, and then, if Chrystia Freeland wants to get run over by the Polyev train, let her, and then I'll claim I was the most popular prime minister of all time after destroying the party. But again, he's really destroyed the Liberal Party and the brand of the Liberal Party and talks about it. So yes, he had all these cheerleaders in the media, but remember, they are members of the Liberal Party. They are, mostly soldiers of the ideology, and there will be a veneration of Trudeau. But if Trudeau does crazy damage to the Liberal Party and then tries to say it's your fault, not mine, remember, all the people, in order to carry that narrative forward, he needs the media, and the media is part of the Liberal Party, and I don't think he will be able to pull off that narrative as successfully as he thinks he will, because, again, once you're out of power and you're not signing the paychecks, you can't just tell everyone at the CBC to say what you need to say. And eventually, when the new Liberal Party will need to distance themselves from Trudeau to gain popularity, and the media will do that because they don't want the Conservatives in power. They want the Liberals back in power. They want more funding. They want the thing like they'll throw Trudeau under the bus to rebuild the Liberal brand. So his thoughts of legacy, I don't think he's able to comprehend. Because again, he's son of the Prime Minister, born into privilege and wealth. I don't think he'll be able to comprehend what life is going to get a little bit more difficult when you're not the Prime Minister anymore. You'll still have some sycophants running around, but getting people to jump when you say jump won't be as easy with your reputation and without the power of the office behind you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much for your time, Daniel, and your expert analysis. Your understanding of Canadian politics is very important, very impressive. Thank you so much again for giving us your time. Okay.
Thank you for having me. And may Canada and India stop fighting this stupid fight one day and get back to being friends.
Sure. We really need to do that. We had a great relationship. Get back to that.
Sorry about all the crazy Khalistanis blowing everything up.
Yeah, that can't be helped, I suppose, but hopefully it gets better now.
All right. Well,